Hello everyone and welcome to the third episode of the Ultimate AFL Show. And well, we've just finished week 2 of the NAB Challenge. We're now going into week 3 and we're getting ever so slightly close to the season proper commencing for 2016. It's getting exciting. Now in today's episode I will review week 2 of the NAB Challenge. I'll look at the ladder after week 2 of the NAB Challenge, and then I'm also going to look towards week 3, the second last week of the NAB Challenge, which starts Thursday night. But I'm not going to waste any time. Let's get straight into looking at week 2 of the pre-season competition. Week 2 started on Thursday night in Canberra at Star Track Oval between the GWS Giants and my team, the Western Bulldogs. The Western Bulldogs had most of the control for most of the game and led at every single break, and in the end finished the score by winning 113-17, 104, defeating the GWS Giants 0-11, 7-73. The super goal kickers, GWS didn't have any, but the Western Bulldogs had Campbell as their super goal kicker. And the goals for GWS, Lobb, Stewart, Congilo, Hoskin Elliott kicked 2 each, while Scully, Thompson and Hopper kicked singles, while the Western Bulldogs Stringer kicked 3. I think he had more shots though, so he could have got a bit more than what he got, but he got 3 goals. Campbell got 2, Stevens, McRae, Hovat, Suckling, Daniels, Picken, Wallace and Roughhead all got singles. I was going to say Suckling in his debut match for the Western Bulldogs got himself a debut goal. Well done to him. On Friday night at the redeveloping Simmons Stadium was Collingwood and Geelong, and well, this was probably one of the best pre-season games of all time, really. Well, that's how Dwayne Russell explained it, and I have to agree with him. I don't think we've seen for a while two teams on their opening game kick over 100 points. It was just absolutely incredible, and it was pretty close all day. The final score finishing 216-9, 123-0, 21-5, 131. Collingwood winning that game. The super goal kickers, Geelong kicked 2 super goals, Smith and Menzel, but still couldn't win the game. Collingwood didn't kick any super goals. And well, the goal kickers for Geelong, Dangerfield on his debut for his new club kicked 3 goals, while Varty and Hawkins kicked 2 each, and then Duncan, McCarthy, Mengola, Cockatoo, Gregson, Menzel, Crookston, Murdoch and Stanley kicked 1 each. While for Collingwood, for Solo, well, he's been a bit under fire in the last couple of days because of that investigation of him peeing in a cup or something in the interchange, but he did play very well by kicking 5 goals. Swan kicked 3 and Gould also kicked 3. Blair kicked 2. Cox, Grundy also kicked 2, and then McCaffer, Greenwood, Sidebottom and Witts kicked 1 each. So Vasolo was probably the man of the match though in that game, kicking a big 5 goals for his Collingwood club. It was a great game actually. It was a very entertaining pre-season game, and well, it probably didn't feel like a pre-season game, especially when it was played at that high intensity. Saturday's opening game was between Port Adelaide, who were playing their second game of the NAB Challenge, up against Melbourne, who were playing their first game of the NAB Challenge. Port Adelaide lost last week to Sydney, and they unfortunately lost again this week to Melbourne. The final score finishing 110-7, 76 to Melbourne, 0-15-5, 95. Broadbent kicked a super goal for Port Adelaide, which was probably a positive, but they still lost the game. Port Adelaide's goal kickers, Westhoff and Boak, kicked 3 each. Schultz, White, Gray and Young kicked singles between them. And then Melbourne, Garlett, Kent kicked, Garlett kicked 3 and Kent kicked 2. Vandenberg also kicked 2 as well as Pedersen. And then Salem, Kennedy, Jones, Hogan, Hams and Tyson kicked singles each. Richmond and Hawthorn played out the last battle of Saturday afternoon, with Richmond coming away with a win, 115-5-104, defeating the Premiers Hawthorn 0-4-9-33. A bit of a smashing actually, but Hawthorn did have some of the young guns in, including a debut from Tasmanian draftee Kieran Lovell. It was interesting to see how he went, and he did alright, that's for sure. Super goals, Richmond, Riewoldt kicked one super goal for Richmond. Hawthorn didn't kick any super goals. And the goal kickers for Richmond, Edwards kicked 4, Lennon kicked 3, Mendu kicked 2, as well as Cochin. Riewoldt, Moore, Lampard and Rioli for Richmond, not Rioli for Hawthorn. Rioli for Richmond kicked singles between them, while the Hawthorn goal kickers, O'Rourke, Sigley, O'Brien and Hardwick kicked singles between them. The most interesting game of the NAB Challenge Week 2, and probably for the whole pre-season really, in my opinion, and for me anyway, was Carlton and Essendon, who is probably two teams who are likely to be in the bottom 4 of the ladder this season, let's face it. Of course, Essendon, with their pre-season troubles, are back on the park with their 10 top-up players. And, well, they actually won the game. It was they actually put in not a bad performance. Early on in the game, a lot of their skills and mistakes were letting them down a little bit, but then they started to play some really good moving football, and they started to, patch some things up. Danaher was trying to take a few great grabs, but couldn't get a hold of him early, then started to get a hold of him. And, they don't have a bad side, I must say. It's not the worst side. It might be the worst side in the competition, but they don't have a bad side, and I reckon they could at least win one game during the season. Well, they've already won a game. It might not be in the season proper, but they've already won a game this year against Carlton. It was 113-8-95 to 138-35. Carlton again only kicking, well, they didn't even kick, well, they kicked 4 goals in total, including the super goal, the same as last week. A lot of their skills also let them down as well, so it was a bit of a similar scenario for both sides. The super goals, Carlton, E. Curnow kicked 1 and Essendon's Z. Merritt kicked 1, while the goal kickers for Carlton, McKay, Smith and Galucki kicked singles each, while for Essendon, Danaher and Goddard booted 3 goals between them, while Grimley, Hams, Long, McKernan, Dempsey, Crowley and Merritt kicked singles. Of course, Crowley debuted for Essendon in this game, as well as a few other top-up players and draftees, of course. Before I move on to the next game, I should mention how great it was to see football back at Princess Park. It's been a while, but it was just stunning to see how good the ground looks after all this time. And, well, the crowd of 18,718 turned out to watch the first AFL game in quite a while at Princess Park on Sunday. It was actually so good to see footy back at Princess Park, and there has been some debate over the last couple of days since Sunday whether or not football should return to either Princess Park or one of the other old AFL grounds next season or in the future. And I guess, in my opinion, the Princess Park is probably the best ground to play at least a couple of games. I wouldn't mind it. It has the same capacity as Blundstone Arena here in Tasmania, and probably some of the other grounds around Australia. I actually would love to see footy back at Princess Park, not on a full-time basis, but maybe for 2 or 3 games. Maybe Carlton's home games would actually work. So, yeah, it was good to see footy back at Princess Park. Final game of Week 2 was probably the second best game of this week. It was Fremantle and Adelaide, the two undefeated sides versing each other, and the final score finished 196-69. Fremantle defeating Adelaide 0-8-19-67. And the goal kickers, Pavlich kicked a super goal for Freo, and then Fife kicked 2, as well as Tembenar. Subin also kicked 2, and then Willett, Mzungu and Walters kicked singles each, while for Adelaide, Menzel got on the scoring board, as well as Jenkins, Smith, Lynch, Salone, Lyons, McKay and Douglas. They all kicked singles each between them. That was a good game too. It went right down to the wire. Okay, now time to have a look at the ladder after week 2 of the NAB Challenge. Fremantle currently lead at the top of the table with Adelaide Crows in 2nd and Collingwood in 3rd. Essendon top off the top 4 on 4th, while down the bottom of the table we still have West Coast. They didn't play a game in week 2 and they have a very poor percentage after getting smashed by Adelaide in week 1 of the NAB Challenge. So Freo, they currently lead the NAB Challenge ladder after week 2. Okay, time to get into week 3 of the NAB Challenge. It starts on Thursday night between West Coast and Gold Coast, two teams who didn't play a game in week 2 of the NAB Challenge. So they've had a week off after their week 1 games. And well, it's at HBF Arena and it will all kick off at 7 PM Australian Eastern Time. Friday night is the Battle of the Bridge, the Sydney Derby, Sydney Swans v GWS Giants in Sydney at some oval, and well, it gets underway at 7 PM also. Saturday's first game starts at Shepparton in Victoria between Essendon and Geelong, getting underway at 2:05 PM, and then the next game is between two Victorian clubs in New South Wales at Wagga Wagga at Robertson Oval at 4:40. It's North Melbourne v Collingwood. They always seem to have some great battles over the last couple of years, and this one might be another one of them. And then we move to Sunday, March 6. It is the Western Bulldogs and Melbourne at Highgate Recreation Reserve in Craigieburn. That one getting underway at 2:05. And then to top off week 3 of the NAB Challenge, it is the Brisbane Lions up against St Kilda at Mackay in Queensland. That game getting underway at 4:40 PM. Okay, so that tops off another episode of the Ultimate AFL Show. I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, we're getting very, very close to the start of the season, and like I mentioned last week, when the season starts, this show will hot up dramatically. And don't forget to like, comment and share this video. I'd really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe. If you subscribe, you get a new episode of this AFL show to your news feed every Wednesday. Next week's episode is going to be very exciting because week 4 of the NAB Challenge will be basically at AFL grounds such as Etihad Stadium and Domain Stadium, and also Metricon and stadiums like that. So this is the last week of the NAB Challenge that will be at different grounds around Australia in different suburbs. So in next week's episode, I'll review week 3 and look ahead to week 4. I'm actually going to a game in week 4 also, so I'll tell you about that next week. So anyway, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.